Alright, now I think it's working. Thought I had a stream going earlier. I don't know if it was or not, but it says it's working now, so. Live. Should be live. Just making sure that we're live. Everything should be good. Alright, it says I'm live. It says on my channel I'm live, so it should be live. Should be good to go. Alright, Kraken have the 8th best odds, a 6% chance at the top pick. The draft lottery, NHL Draft Lottery 2024. Welcome in KJ Bren. Welcome in Samantha Stewart. Welcome in Baba Gensh. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher it. Welcome in, everybody. 2024 NHL Draft Lottery. Got the this way the odds kind of scrolling up and down here. San Jose does have 2 chances at it technically, though one of them they got via the Penguins, and that's like the 14th best odds or something like that. Yeah, 14th best odds. So they have a combined 20% chance at the first pick. It does matter which one it is, because if their Penguins one ends up hitting, I mean, theoretically, both of them could hit. They could get the Penguins pick, and then they could also get their pick. So they could technically, the Sharks could technically get picks 1 and 2, though very unlikely. But the Kraken have a 6% chance of winning one of the top 2 picks. So hopefully when it comes time for spot 8, they will not announce the Kraken name, and the Kraken name will come up a little bit later. Do I have moderations? No, I do not at the moment. It's not usually big enough. I can usually kind of handle it myself for now, but might add some moderating at some point in time. Hello. Hello again. And Hickle. And Hickle 319. Welcome in. Hello, hello, Victor. Predicting the Sharks to get the first pick, obviously. Well, they do have the best odds, so yeah, that'd be the safest bet. If I remember, so Macklin Celebrini is supposed to be the first overall pick, and if I remember correctly, let me go to. I'm pretty sure. So he's from. I want to say he's from BC. I'm pretty sure, but I think his dad works for the Warriors. So if he went to the Sharks, then he would be in the Bay Area, in the same general area where his dad works. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, obviously, selfishly as a Kraken fan, I'd love for the Kraken to get it with that 6% chance, but and also selfishly as a Kraken fan, I'd love for Celebrini to go anywhere but the Pacific Division, which means no Sharks, no Ducks. But I think the best story is probably that he goes to San Jose. All right, what was I looking up? We should be getting pretty close here. It's supposed to start at 3:30. I think it's about half an hour. Should be half an hour long. So the stream probably won't go much longer than it, but we'll figure it out. It's not going to go much longer. We'll probably stop this sometime around 4, a little bit after 4, after the draft lottery ends. But that's still half an hour away. What was I? Tankathon. That's what. It's like I'm trying to think of. So we get some. All right, there we go. Speaking of the draft, I got to look at some prospects to see what is good this year. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of there with you. Like Celebrini is the number 1, and then I don't know a lot about a lot of the other guys. I was looking at it a few days ago. So the Kraken are in the 8th spot, which if you look at, so one place that I really like to go for kind of mock drafts and that stuff is Tankathon. Tankathon's a great site, does mock drafts. They also have a lottery simulator. So for the next 3 minutes, you can go sim the lottery and see what it's going to look like in the future. The bad teams have something to root for tonight. They're not pulling any punches. So yeah, Macklin Celebrini likely to go number one. Then you got a bunch of others. Kraken are somewhere down in this range where like Sam Dickinson, who I don't know much about, but there was one oh where is he? Oh, he's fallen in the rankings, but down in the 15th spot there's a guy named Liam Greentree, and I just feel like the last name Greentree just fits in Seattle pretty well. He's a right winger, so Kraken don't necessarily need more wingers, so it's pretty unlikely I'd say the Kraken pick him for a couple of reasons. But he also played with Shane Wright, played with Shane Wright in the OHL last year in the OHL playoffs with the Windsor Spitfires. So that's the only other guy I can know much about other than Celebrini, who's going to go first overall. Got a few few college prospects. See, obviously, Macklin, Celebrini. Is it possible for Chicago to get another first pick? I'm hoping that they don't get two in a row. Yes, they can get one more first pick. They can get either first or second. So they can win the lottery, which is either first or second wins the lottery. Yeah, they could get either first or second pick. That means they would technically win the lottery. And based on the new rules that went in effect 2 years ago, the year after the Kraken got the second pick, they can only win the lottery twice in a span of I think it's 10 years. So the Blackhawks could get the first or second pick in this draft, but if they do get the first or second pick, which they have the second best odds, if they get the first or second pick in this draft, then they can't get first or second in the next 8 years. So there's that. And I'm gonna try and keep up somewhat with uh once it says once they put in who's where, I'll try to edit the scroller over on this side. Get that right eventually. I'll try and edit the scroller so that you can we'll actually have the official place of where people are picking. Oh dang. Yeah, so Chicago could get first or second pick. Odds. So they have San Jose at 25%. Maybe the odds have changed a little bit. 3%. All right, so it looks like the odds have changed a little bit. So maybe mine aren't perfectly accurate. Oh, I guess they're. They say the Sharks have 25.5%. I think that's because they're adding in the chance of. I think that's because they're adding the chance of the pick of the Sharks that they also have. But I'll edit that. Why not? They say 25%. They probably know what they're talking about. Macklin was really good in BU, Boston University. 32 goals and 32 assists this year. Yep, he is very good. Not quite, probably not quite Connor Bedard good, but yeah, definitely a legitimate first overall pick. Oh, they confirmed what I said earlier that Celebrini's dad works for the Golden State Warriors. So if they were to win, or if the Sharks were to win, then he likely goes to the Bay Area where his dad is. Be kind of cool. Should get this going here pretty soon. They're doing all the build-up stuff right now while they wait for the NHL official people to bring in the picks. Oh, here they come. They got the picks. Whatever you do, don't drop the cards, he says. All right. Just a couple minutes away. The winner of the draft has been chosen. Now they just bring out the cards to show us the order that it went in. People are going to rage if Chicago gets the first overall pick again 2 years in a row. Alrighty. 6% chance. 6% chance the Kraken get Celebrini. That's what we're here for. But any other, like, if anybody else has any other questions from the review, obviously. Oh, in Utah. Utah's in there as well. No logo or name yet, so I just put Utah. They've got 7.5% chance. For the people that believe things are rigged, I would say best stories are San Jose, and you also avoid any allegations. They're the best chance. So, like, is it really that rigged? But, you know, everyone assumed Bedard was going to Chicago last year, and he sure did. San Jose is, I think, the best story just because his dad is from Golden State Warriors, or works for the Golden State Warriors, so you got that going there. Obviously, like, Chicago back-to-back first-round picks would be... I feel like if it was actually rigged, they wouldn't do that. Just playing into it. It's not rigged, but, you know, there's people that sometimes think it is. Certainly the way last year went, some people certainly believed. After Chicago jumped up to take the first overall pick and get Bedard. Chicago jumping up to get Bedard, yeah. See who else. Who else would be? Utah would not, like, if Utah wins it, it's like, oh, the team that's moving to Utah, we want to make sure that they're successful in the new place that we're moving them to. So get them a superstar in Celebrini. Potential superstar in Celebrini. So Utah, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Utah. That would be like the... Utah winning it would be an eyebrow raiser for sure. I feel like some people probably feel similarly if Seattle won it. Just like, really? The new team has a year of struggle and you throw them a first overall pick? I feel like if it were actually rigged, Utah would get it. Yeah, I feel like no one will question... If San Jose gets it, no one will question it because they have the best chance at it. So, yeah, like rigging it just so you can have Celebrini go to where his dad is. They're not going to do that. Yeah, Utah's the one where if Utah were to win it, that would be the one that would, I think, would raise a lot of eyebrows. Following the draft lottery, so in half an hour, the Rangers and Canes will drop the puck on the second game of round 2. I picked the Canes to win that series. I think I'm actually kind of cheering for the Rangers to win it because if the Canes get knocked out of that series, there's an ever so slight chance that they part ways with Rod Brind'Amour, and if that happens, then Seattle can get Rod Brind'Amour, and that is the ideal situation. The ideal situation here for the Kraken, just like if we're going to live in a dream world. The Kraken get win the first overall pick with the 6 best odds here. The Canes get like swept unceremoniously out of the second round by the Rangers. Fire Rod Brind'Amour, so then Seattle can get him, and if Brind'Amour is available, I think Seattle... I think the most likely case is that Brind'Amour stays in Carolina, but if he doesn't stay in Carolina next season, I think Seattle's the next most likely place for him to be, just because of all the connections, Ron Francis, and a lot of other connections with Carolina. I think Seattle's definitely a place he could end up. Also, an ownership group with deep pockets that could really pay him. So Kraken win the draft lottery. Canes lose enough to where they fire Brindamore. Kraken pick up Brindamore, and then the Kraken go out and trade and like just get great value with like a fleecing of Toronto to pick up Mitch Marner. That's like that's where I'm at. That's where that's what I want. I literally have 4 streams I'm watching. Yours, the hockey guy, and only ones that I have audio on. Oh, well, I appreciate it. I know I'm up here competing with. Oh wow, Ron Francis set up in the locker room at the practice facility. He's got the best backdrop, that's for sure. What a story that would be if they moved up to the top of the draft. How awkward that have to be for you. Like you're 18 and they just trot you out here like, well, you're probably the first overall pick. You want to hang out with us and we'll just figure out where you're probably going to go live? I mean, they, like if it wasn't for COVID, they would have done this with Shane Wright, and then he didn't even go first overall. So please don't fleece Toronto. It's my other favorite team. Look, I'm just talking from a selfish Kraken standpoint. I don't. It wouldn't be. It's nothing against the Leafs. It's just if the Kraken could get Mitch Marner for not having to give up that much, that would be the ideal situation for the Kraken. So sorry, they would also have to come at the expense of the Leafs a little bit. Ron sitting in 32 waiting for his $30 sandwich. Well, he's sitting down in the player locker room down by rink 1. You know, it's not quite as nice as the locker room at the arena, but it's still a pretty nice locker room. They got a giant TV in there, so they can watch all sorts of like golf. They have golf on there. They'll have basketball on that TV. They got a big old TV at like the end that Ron Francis is facing. So basically, Ron is sitting there at a desk in that locker room, just watching this like massive TV for the draft lottery, which I think they can like sub screen it. So he probably has like a sub screen of like him and other stuff going on there. But let's see what else have we got here. Iserman would look good in Seattle. Manifesting this. I'd be okay with it. When will the lottery start? Any second now. They showed the guy leaving the lottery room with the cards, so the lottery's actually technically already happened, but they should start announcing it here pretty soon. I mean, basically they're announcing a 16 team order and they've got 20 more minutes to do it, so I think they're kind of just taking their time to fill TV time. How long will we need to wait? Shouldn't have to wait too much longer. Again, this is all. It'll be over by 4 o'clock, so we got 18 more minutes. But we'll know in 18 minutes. Like they got half an hour slot here between. Was Sports Center was before it, and then the start of Game 2 between the Rangers and Canes coming up. So plus Wemberg's on the Rangers. Good point. Another good reason to cheer for the Rangers. Wemberg's playing for him. Oh, lots of defensemen in the draft they're talking about. Should be getting started any second now. I'll try and keep up on the side here. Just gonna assume. Okay, yeah, they did. So these are correct. They just added the. All right, there's Bettman. Everybody's gonna boo at their screens. He can't hear you this time. Yeah, the draft is in the sphere. I'm gonna try and be at the draft. Should be fun. Be fun to be there. Still need to get that set up, but all right, here we go. Should be getting started any second. All right, we'll do one. Should we do it? Nah. We all know it is rigged, says. I think that's what you mean. We all know it is. Oh, 5-year span. Wait. Teams. Oh, they can only move up. Okay, so 5-year span. So if Chicago does win, if Chicago wins, then they can't win for another 3 years. So it's a 5-year span, not 10. I said 10 earlier. 5-year span. 16th overall selection is St. Louis Blues, as we expected. Yep. 15th selection is Detroit Red Wings, so nothing's changed. 14th selection belongs to Pittsburgh. That one's the one going to the Sharks, so still nothing has changed. Thirteenth selection. This should be Minnesota. Minnesota, yep. 12th selection, this should be Philadelphia. Philadelphia it is. They didn't play that one past it. They're like, "Hey, Celebrini, have you've been on Zillow looking at homes in San Jose, or have you been on Zillow lately?" And he goes, no, what's Zillow?" All right, here we go. 11th pick. This should be Buffalo. It is. 10th selection should be New Jersey. It is. There's Iserman. Someone already said they were hoping for Iserman in the chat. Suspense. All right, 9th overall selection. This should be Calgary. It is. All right. Here we go. Kraken. Not Kraken. Not Kraken. Not Kraken. Not Kraken. 8th pick goes to. Not the Kraken. Not the Kraken. Not the Kraken. Ah, no. All right. Kraken will pick 8th. All right, 7th. This should be Ottawa. It is. So we're still in order. Here comes Utah. All right, yep, it's Utah. He didn't know what to do there for a second, so I kind of figured that was going to be Utah. He looks down, he's like, "Wait, that's not a logo. What is this? Oh, Utah, right." Montreal Canadiens, so we're still in order up through 5. All right, so 4 teams left. Now, if anything's going to move, this is where we're going to start. Could potentially see a team having dropped. All right. Noah moved into or out of the top. Yeah, but the top 4. So, yeah, I mean, it's as expected. Yeah, the best odds are definitely these top 4 teams. So, all right, here we go. 4th selection. This should be Columbus. It is Columbus. So the top 3 are still in the top 3. All right. Good thing Ron got all ready and in his room there to just be picked 8th. So the Kraken will select in the 8th spot of the 2024 draft. Columbus at 4. So 3 teams left. It is down to there's a unfortunately, I suppose for the Kraken there's a 60, well, actually more than that, but there's a very good chance that Celebrini is coming to the Pacific Division, which is unfortunate for the Kraken, but boring so far. Yeah, I mean, there's usually not a lot changes around. So last year, the only team that moved up last year was Chicago. They moved up from 3 to 1. So everything was still the same as of last year. I can't remember the year before that. And then the first year the Kraken were in it, they moved up from 4 to 2. Last year was too exciting with Chicago moving up 2 spots. Still nothing has changed. Of Anaheim, San Jose, and Chicago, who do you want to get the first overall pick? The best story, like I said, is definitely San Jose. So, I mean, selfishly as a Kraken fan, I want it to be Chicago, but at the same time, I know that's going to be like the only people that potentially want it to be Chicago are fans of Pacific Division teams that aren't the Ducks or Sharks, that all they care about is what's best for their team. And, as far as that's concerned, yeah, it would be best if it was Chicago for the Kraken would be the best. Otherwise, I mean, if it's between Anaheim and San Jose, I hope he goes to San Jose just for, that fun story of it going into the Bay Area where his dad also working for the Warriors. Golden State Warriors, that is. So his dad works in basketball, but it's funny how your stream is slightly behind. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind the stream. Like, I'm streaming it via YouTube TV and then putting it, casting it to the TV, which is usually somewhat behind. Here we go, 3rd overall pick. This should be the Ducks, but this is where someone could move down. It's the Ducks. So that means Chicago did win one of the top 2 picks, so Chicago cannot get a top 2 pick in the next 3 seasons. Here we go. The first overall pick. The San Jose Sharks, so nothing changed. The order was the order. All right. Well, that was a rather uneventful draft lottery. That everything went right in order all the way up. Which, you know, that's how the odds are set up to go, but everything, yeah, right from 16 to 1, every team went in order. Chicago getting the second pick does technically mean that they won the lottery, so they cannot get a top 2 pick in the next 3 seasons. So it doesn't matter how bad the Blackhawks are, the best they can get is the 3rd overall pick for the next 3 years. San Jose likely to get then Celebrini, which, yeah, it's again cool story. He gets to go live in the Bay Area where his dad works for the Golden State Warriors. You must be on cloud 9 that you, with the best odds and a team that absolutely sucked, got the first overall pick. Basically already confirming that they're going to pick Celebrini. He's like, yeah, we like Macklin, so we're excited. We're excited about this position that we're in. It was a tough year for us, but we're excited about the future. Yeah, basically, we might as well already know who the first pick is when the draft rolls around. We'll already know the first pick because they're basically confirming that they're taking Celebrini right now, which, you know, again, is to be expected. He's by far the projected first overall pick. So unless something wild happens in the next like 2 months. So everything went in order. That means the Sharks get the first overall pick. There's the Sharks fans celebrating. I mean, for Celebrini's sake, he also gets to wear one of the best looking jerseys in the league, so. He's clearly like overwhelmed by all this media stuff. He's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a amazing organization. Shark's gonna fumble. Lottery picks, so it's random. I'm new to hockey. Somewhat random, yeah. So there is basically the bottom 16 teams, the ones that don't go to the playoffs, all get a descending amount of chance for the first overall pick. So the team that was the worst has the best chance. It's kind of like the NBA. I mean, assuming you probably don't know what the NBA works in a similar way, where the top 2 picks are lotteried. So you're not the team that's the worst isn't guaranteed the best pick. They have the best chance at the first pick, and this year it ended up going directly in order. Um, but like last season, for example, the Blackhawks finished 3rd worst, which meant they had the 3rd best odds at the first overall pick, and they ended up winning it. So, um, yeah, it's random to some extent, but it's like it's a weighted lottery. So the team that was the worst has the best chance to get the first pick, and so on down to 16. The teams that make the playoffs, the other 16 teams don't get a chance at the lottery whatsoever. But yeah, there you have it. Kraken will pick 8th. And essentially the idea is that it somewhat discourages tanking because you can't just like full out put out like a high school team and guarantee that you're going to get the first overall pick. You still have a chance to potentially drop down to the third because the top two spots, it used to be top three, now it's the top two spots are lotteried. So even if you're the worst team like the Sharks were, the Sharks could have dropped down to the third spot, not gotten either of the first two picks. But everything went in order this year. There was, when was, a few years back, there was a year where I think it was either Columbus or Buffalo, back when they lotted the first three picks, they were the worst team, but they ended up picking fourth because they didn't get any one of the top three picks. Who are the Kraken taking? Well, they could take... it's hard to say. I mean, again, I haven't looked too much into the lottery or the different prospects, other than obviously everyone knew Celebrini is great. But looking at, so Tankathon, just tankathon.com, and then they go to the NHL one, does mock drafts based on a variety of different places that rank the different players. They have the Kraken taking at 8 Sam Dickinson, left shot defenseman, which, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Kraken go D. This is supposed to be a pretty good draft for defensemen at the top. Like, Celebrini is a center, he's really good, and then there's a Russian guy, Demidov, that's supposed to go probably second overall. They're both centers or wings, but then you got a lot of defensemen kind of through there. So the Kraken will probably get a defenseman, whether that's Sam Dickinson, maybe get a right shot defenseman in there. I'm sure they'll try and get a right shot defenseman if, who's this? Zane Perka, if he's available. He's projected up there in that same area, so I'll spend a little bit more time as we get closer to the draft looking into the prospects and all that kind of stuff. I do not consider myself an expert on prospects and that kind of stuff, but it's obviously a little bit trickier with hockey since you've got, players that play in the NCAA, you've got players that play in the juniors, the OHL, WHL, you've got players that are from like the European leagues, you got players from Russia, players from Finland, players from Sweden. So like players come from all over the place with different leagues that, like, even within North America, the NCAA is a very different, it's a very different style of hockey that's typically played versus what you see in the OHL or WHL that are very high scoring leagues. So it can be pretty tricky to compare, especially with defensemen, where a lot more of it is based off of like how they play and not things like point production. But we'll see. The Kraken will pick 8th. It seems like it's likely a defenseman, and especially with their propensity to build from the back forward, which is definitely how Ron Francis likes to do it. I would not be surprised if they go defenseman, especially also considering that they have seemingly hit on a lot of the forwards they've picked in the last 3 drafts, with both Kraken prospects leading both the WHL and OHL in scoring this last season, that being Jager Furkis and David Goyette, respectively. So they potentially have a lot of scoring coming up from the forward end already from previous drafts. So getting a little bit more defensive talent would be good. So happy Chicago isn't picking number 1. They're still picking number 2, so they're still going to get a pretty good player. Lottery pick, so it's random. I'd respond to that. If this is the first time it's gone, is this the first time it's gone in order? I don't know for sure, but I can't imagine it is. The lottery hasn't been around for a super, super long time. I can't imagine it's the first time it's gone in order. No surprises, really. Hope we get someone who works well with our group. Go Kraken. Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, whoever the Kraken get at 8 probably isn't going to play out with the team until... They'll probably spend at least 1 year in juniors, and then maybe kind of a similar, I'd say similar trajectory from what we've seen from like Shane Wright, for example, of like 1 year in the juniors. Obviously, Wright's situation in his first year after being drafted was a little bit different, little sloppy with that. That year was just weird. But we're probably looking at a guy that's going to spend a year in his junior league or wherever, if it's a European league. He'll spend another year wherever he's already currently playing. And then maybe a year at the AHL, depending on how next year goes. And then potentially someone that we'll see playing with the Kraken in like 3 years' time. So this is not, even though they're at 8, it's likely not going to be a player that we're going to see next season at all. And even like potentially see, like we saw Shane Wright and Ryan Winterton come up towards the end of the season. We're probably not going to see whoever the Kraken pick at 8 in a Kraken jersey until at least the 25-26 season, if not the year after that. So still, 8th overall pick should be pretty good. Get a good prospect. If I'm not mistaken, that's where Cale Makar was taken. So pretty sure he was 8th, or maybe he was 4th. I think he was 8th. But it could be a very good player the Kraken get at a... There's always that potential they get a very good player there at 8. I thought they would rig it for Chicago or Utah. Nope, they after last year it went just straight in order. So I mean, you know, if you really want to play the conspiracy theory game, you could just say that, well, last year they might have rigged it a little too obviously last year. So this year they just did it right in order so nobody can complain. So if you want to keep the conspiracy theory alive, that's I think the direction you take it is just after rigging it for Chicago to get Bedard last year, since the Sharks were already a good story for a place for Celebrini to go, just have things go right in order. No one can complain. No one can point, question, or like all that stuff. I called it Sharks would pick first. Yep. Getting the safest bait, but definitely what happened. All right. I'm going to close things down here in a little bit, but feel free to a couple more questions. We can get through a couple more things, and then, yeah, we'll close it out. Wasn't going to be a super long stream. Not the most eventful draft lottery ever, and nobody moved. But there you have it. So the Sharks will pick 1st and 14th, unless I think if it was outside the top 10, they could opt out of it. They can push it a year. I don't. If I was the Sharks, I think I'd take 1 and 14. If that was how that works, there was some weird stipulation with that pick that they get from the Sharks in the Erik Karlsson trade, where they could. I think it's that they could opt to have it. If it was outside the top 10, they could opt to push it back a year. But I don't know. It's hard to bet that the Penguins are going to miss the playoffs again. And I doubt they're going to like significantly miss the playoffs to where they're going to get a much better pick than 14 next year. NHL 101. I do have an NHL 101 on how the draft lottery works. It is a little bit outdated. I did it the year before they changed things a little bit. So when I did the video, they were still the top 3 picks got lottoed, and you could win the lottery as many times. Then the year after I made that video, they changed it to where the top 2 picks get lotteried, and you can't win the lottery more than 2 times in a 5-year span. So now Chicago can't get better than a third overall pick for the next 3 years, because they've technically won the lottery twice, as far as I understand it, because they won the first pick last year, and then even though they're still in the spot they would have been, they won one of the top 2 spots with the best odds. So they still won the lottery by being in one of those top 2 spots. So, yep. That's how that works. But next 101 will be, I think it's like contracts and how contracts work, I want to say. Things like stuff that'll be relevant for free agency. I think the next 2 I'm going to do will be, yeah, the one about like how contracts work, and then also different leagues around the world, and especially looking at like junior leagues, so where different players come from. That one I'm definitely gonna have to try and have out like kind of around the draft. So it'd be like this is what the WHL is, the OHL is, the CHL, which is like the body over the W, and OHL and ECHL, I'm pretty sure. So the junior leagues, what all those are. NCAA is a league. Then you got the European leagues, which like both the Finnish and Swedish leagues, and I think Russian as well, all have like 3 or 4 different tiers of them. So that one I'm going to try and get out. And also German leagues, there's one. So try and get that one out before the draft, just as like a, hey, this is where all different stuff comes from, and like, you know, talk about stuff like, oh, why the Rangers the Rangers game is getting started here. Rangers Canes. But yeah, mentioning kind of why all those different picks are, or what the different leagues look like. So why, you know, when you see a player get picked out of like, I mean, actually, a decent example, like Connor Bedard got picked out of a junior league where he just like had an insane number of points. Why that's a little bit different than like Macklin Celebrini, who had, I mean, 64 points in 38 games, but it's also in the NCAA where it's scoring tends to be down a little bit. There's like less scoring in the NCAA. It's a little bit more similar to the NHL than there is in the WHL or the OHL, where the scoring tends to be a bit higher. So even though his numbers at, I mean, 32 goals and 32 assists in 38 games is still pretty freaking good, it doesn't look nearly as like otherworldly as like Connor Bedard's numbers, or even Jager Furkis's numbers or David Goyette's numbers from this last year. And that's just because, yeah, the NCAA, there's not as much scoring, so you can't like 1-to-1 compare the points that a player's gotten in the NCAA versus points a player's gotten in like OHL or WHL. So anyway, we'll do that video sometime before the draft, ideally. And yeah, I got a few 101s coming out. I will probably not be streaming for the draft this year, just because I'm planning to be at the draft, ideally. Still have to make that happen, so but we'll see. I might do some stream for some like later playoff games. We'll see. It's kind of very dependent on when I have time. Now that the Kraken aren't playing, I'm a little bit more flexible and a little more family stuff to attend to as well. But glad I popped in. Glad to have you, Fizz. Appreciate you popping in. And yeah. So yeah, appreciate everyone that hopped in for a little bit. Just a little hangout here for what ended up being a not very eventful draft lottery. Things went right in order. Kraken will pick 8th overall, and like I said, looks like they'll probably get a defenseman. I'll spend some more time looking at prospects and who the Kraken might pick once we get closer to the draft. Still got a couple other Kraken-related videos to get out here before I really get to work on just pumping out some 101s over the summer. We got player grades, and the player awards will be the next one. So yeah, got those coming out. And until then, appreciate y'all for hopping in for this short stream. And until next time, stay safe out there, be good to each other. God bless, and go Kraken. And peace.